This video might trigger some people today, and I'm not too concerned about that because this is a build I'm about to do for my daughter. It's been a long time since she built her computer. In fact, she was 5 at the time and she's 11 now. So it's been 6 years. I think she was 5. I don't remember, it's been a while. But anyway, I'm gonna be building kind of a very girly PC, if you will. She is absolutely into like the pastel-y colors and style and all that stuff. She's definitely grown up over the years, but I'll tell you guys why I'm doing this build and how I'm gonna make her pay it forward. So the specs of her current PC aren't terrible, but actually as she's gotten older, she just turned 11, she's definitely been getting into like more intensive games. She's been like modding Minecraft and doing shaders and stuff, which is so funny. I didn't teach her how to do that. She went on YouTube and found tutorials and started doing it herself. And then noticed like, you know, there's some lag happening in a lot of these shaders and stuff. Now her system is no slouch though. I believe, if I remember correctly, it's an 11900K or an 11700K. I cannot remember the specs of her build, like at all. Like I wanna say it's an 11th gen, but I thought, oh no, that's right. I think she got upgraded to an 11th gen because I tried to put a 10400 in her build, but the CPU was bad from Intel. It was one of the Intel like review units that were sent in and it just never worked. So I believe I had upgraded her to like an 11.7 or 11900K, something like that. I think she has 16 gigs of DDR4, fairly basic board. It's in like an old Corsair 4000D, I think, or something around there. It's a glass front and it's a very small case because she has a small desk. But she has an EVGA 3080 in there, which I'm gonna be recovering and taking back and putting something else in there because I'm not reusing any of her parts because I'm going to make her gift that PC to someone. Who, not sure yet, but she attends a charter / co-op school. She is homeschooled, but it's a very church-based type thing. They do a lot of like community stuff or whatnot. But I'm extremely proud of this kid. Just to do kind of a high level, and you guys haven't seen her much, but she's had amazing growth this year in terms of like her person. She has spent the last few months or whatever doing community outreach, going to like retirement homes and hanging out with, playing games and chatting with like the senior citizens there that don't have any family and whatnot, you know, during Thanksgiving. And they went caroling the other day. She wants to do the, I can't remember what they call it, angel tree giving, which is where you go to like stores and buy gifts that go into certain like donation funds or even go in and pay off people's like holds and stuff like that. This year has been all about giving. And it's the first time I've not heard all month long so far, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this for Christmas. It's, I want to do this, do this, do this. So this is why I'm doing this for her. Now I did reach out to Hyte and say, I need a couple of your X50s. Because we talked about this when we did the fireside chat with Rob, that it would be fun to mix and match parts. So I figured because this kind of a lavendery purple is one of her favorite colors, and she loves the elegance of white, that I would do some mix and matching of the case parts. But in terms of the rest of the build, I didn't want to go crazy with it, but I wanted to have some future compatibility. And this is the part where I said some of you are probably gonna get triggered just simply because it has DDR5. I already have these sticks, it doesn't hurt you in any way, but I didn't want to do RGB either for the RAM. I just want to keep it as simple as possible. This is just Crucial 6000 CL36, nothing super exciting to write home about, 32 gigs. For the storage, just an MP600 Core XT 1TB drive, Gen 4 drive from Corsair, had that in the box. For the CPU, 9700X, nothing crazy, but upgradable in the future. So if we ever wanted to throw in a 9800 XT, or excuse me, a 9800 X3D, or maybe whatever the next gen looks like on AM5, but the 9700X, more than enough for what we're doing here. For the Minecraft stuff, it might hurt a little bit because it does hit the CPU quite a bit when it comes to like the chunks and whatnot. We'll see how this works out. If I need to look at doing like a 9900X or something in the future, or maybe something with more cores, I'll look at that, but we just need to see how it goes. For the GPU, I'm finally throwing our Gaming Pro 9070 XT White Edition in something. This is where I really struggled because I'm not gonna throw like a 5080 or something really high end in there because it would be ridiculous to do that, but then for an 11-year-old, but the 9070 XT is also not a cheap GPU. But this is why I said I'm gonna be retaining the EVGA 3080 because even though it's the Clown Lips version, because you can't get those anymore. So before we regift that, I'll put a different GPU in there. I have other 3080s too that I could throw in there, but I wanna hang on to that card for obvious reasons. For the platform, just an X670 Aorus Elite. I'll probably have to do a BIOS flashback on this. I think I've had this board since before 9000 series launched, so it may not boot with that CPU, so we'll have to see. I do have X870Es, but that's overkill. In fact, I don't have even a nice B650 here. I would just throw that in there with this, because this is a bit overkill. But again, future upgradability, and I've had pretty good luck with Gigabyte stuff lately. My build at home is utilizing an Aorus board. My build upstairs is utilizing an Aorus board. And Phil, do you have an Aorus board?
No, I'm on Azeroth.
You're on Azeroth, okay. Ooh, that's even more dangerous. And then for the PSU, I'm throwing in a 1000 watt Fantex Revolt for no reason other than it's the only PSU I have right now that I have a white cable kit for. So there's that. This is interesting because this is the PSU that they sell with no cables. So you have to get a cable kit, and we happen to have a white one. So again, 1000 watts is overkill for this GPU, but I even said it in so many build videos, overspec your power supply a little bit, it can live a long time with your build and through many upgrades as long as you don't underspec it. And then I did get a entire care package of like Nexus Hyte stuff, or Hyte Nexus stuff. So we'll put a thick Q60 in there, which I think is gonna trigger me a little bit given the white shroud and black fan blades or whatever, but it is what it is. It's also got the screen on there. She's a sucker for like screens and blinky lights and stuff. So every time she sees my system, she's like, that's so cool. And I'm like, yeah, well, you're too little. You're not having that. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that they were like, you gotta destroy it, I could just throw the Q80 in there and say, sorry, Hyte. But I really don't wanna put that voodoo on them because these have been recalled. And
I love our little label, dude. Not for actual use.
I'm curious if it leaked. The recall on this was there was a seal or a flap inside that could or couldn't, it may or may not leak, and you wouldn't know, apparently. Some of the boxes were wet in the inside, so I want to see. Oh, that's all dry. Anyway, I don't want, even though I could use it and just be like, I absorb all responsibility, I don't want people to see this in use and be like, where can I get it? Why can't I get it? Blah, blah, blah. So this is just a display piece now. Basically, they were like, why don't you smash it on camera? I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. That's just wasteful. I don't even know what else we have. Oh, purple fans to go with our flip-flopped color scheme. And then just random things like noodles. So, let me start switching the parts around and see how it looks. I'm still not entirely sure which one I'm gonna go. White on purple or purple on white? Okay, so there's the glass, the tempered glass. If you didn't see our video of us throwing 5-pound weights at it to break it, check that out. What the? Anyway, these are not identical though. I wanna point that out. I just wanna see real quick what this looks like. That actually looks kind of cool. I was worried that it was gonna look like, but no, what I wanted to show you, Phil, is look at the bottom. So those are the feet. I was like, what if I trade the purple feet on there? But the purple feet are like cat paws.
Oh.
They're different. If long the holes line up the same, which I can't imagine they retooled holes to drill these or screw these down, I should be able to swap the feet. But I like the little cat paw feet, even though you can't see them really. All right, so that's the bottom. I swatched over the bottoms. No, I switched over the fan filter and the feet. I think they both look really good. Like, I think they could totally sell them this way if they wanted, but I think I'm gonna go with the white base and the purple rings down there, even though you won't see them. The purple feet and stuff. When switching over also to the IO covers or the IO plates for the back. For the main reason that there's gonna be a lot of RGB in here, and the white will be better for reflecting that light rather than adding a purple lavendery tint to all of it. So I'm gonna go with this, but this will be a fun build for something in the future as well. So you could, man, with so many colors, they've got the red, they've got the green, the matcha green or whatever, they got this purple, they got white, they got black. You could totally mix and match. I think it's really cool. So I'm gonna set that one aside, take out and switch over the covers real quick, and then that's what I'm gonna go with on this one right here. Okay, so I'm swapping over the IO covers back here. The top one is different. Took me a minute to figure that out. I'm like, why would it go in? Because it has one less rung on there to account for the top right there. But the only thing I wish that this case had, honestly, was stainless hardware. They have black, which really kind of stands out. So fortunately, I have my own stainless that I can stick in here, which looks a lot better than the black. Case in point, here's the other one with the whites put in there. And as you can see with the black, it really stands out. not terrible, but just it could be better with the stainless hardware. So that would be my only suggestion, is if you could switch that out. Same thing with the rivets. The black rivets really stand out, but you would have to obviously apply that to all of the cases, which I don't think would be a problem. I think the silver would look good in all of the colors. And yes, I know I'm gonna take some of these back out when I put in the GPU. I just don't know where it's gonna line up yet. So I'll put the Q60 here on the back wall. And then I will do 3 intakes in the front, 3 intakes on the bottom. And those will be intake. That'll be a ton of intake. Thank God for the flow-through design of this case, because it is definitely gonna be sitting under some positive pressure. I wanna see the purple. What does this look like? Oh yeah. I wanted to change over the grommets too, but they're actually glued in. Okay, I have another white case if I f this up. Okay, maybe I can move the grommet over, which I think would be a really nice accent. Look at that. Yeah, it's just a little strip of double-sided tape. Yeah, it's like, this is what was missing. I was like, something's missing. Like, I needed just a little bit more purple in there. This is the most satisfying grommet too, because it's just so big. Big things are definitely satisfying. So I've heard, not speaking from experience here or anything like that. Okay, the top one now. All right, and then here are the fans. Ooh, the fans. They did a really good job at matching the color, considering they're different materials. You know how hard it is to make plastic, metal, and rubber all match? That's kind of crazy, actually. All right, I'll get all the case kind of configured, and then we'll move forward. All right, so there we go. There's the purple bits in there, the purple fans, the purple grommets. I ran the wires through right here. Fortunately, by using their but their splitter, if you straighten it out like that, it's kind of funny, because then the gaps between it's about 60 millimeters between the headers, which means if you have the fans lined up, right, the top fan's gonna be shorter, shorter, shorter. It actually equates to that distance. So it kind of works out like an extension too. Here's the back side. I had to use a Cooler Master cable or a fan hub, because the one thing Hyte doesn't have in this case or any accessories is like the fan hub. So it'd be neat if they could have something like that added to the cases, or at least available as an accessory later, but I digress. That is what it looks like. You can see the cables right here on the front side are kind of hard to hide a little bit. Kind of push them down in there. It's a really big opening right here, so you can kind of see any cable clutter that builds up right there, so I want to keep that looking nice. The motherboard will hang down slightly to cover some of that, but I guess I can put in the motherboard before I do the cooler or anything. I have plenty of access to do the cooler later. I want to see if I can get these noodles to work in there. The noodles are technically made for like the Y70, but you could technically kind of make them work anywhere. I just sort of want to do them like around the edges. If that doesn't work, then I can always resort to the standard, just regular RGB strip. But I just want to see if I can make the noodles work though first. So I'm gonna try that now. Okay, after a lot of cursing and fishing, I finally was able to run, I didn't use the noodle. It really is designed for the Y70, like its length and all that. The combs that are designed to like give it its shape, I just randomly threw those on there. So it really is designed for the Y70. I'm not gonna use those on this, but I use one of the strips so far. And you can see right here, it's kind of hard to see, it's kind of hidden, which I was sort of hoping for. It's got these clips that you can tape down with 3M tape. They come pre-applied. They're just clips, which is nice, that way you can move the strip around. The strip is also magnetic, but I have it coming right here along the bottom and up here along the side, and then kind of pointing up right there. And then that's where the wire actually goes down through the arm or the support there, and then down through the bottom to come out. I want to see how this looks lighting wise. The only downside is I'm trying to hide the strip as much as possible because it's black, you know, and everything else in here is white, and like that, what do they call that? Milk tea? What do they call this? Taro milk. Yeah, I don't speak boba colors. So
it truly is taro milk now with the white. Yeah,
no kidding. Oh, there's a lot of milk versus taro, I guess. I think I am gonna put this in there, and then this was for my build and I just forgot to put it in. It's supposed to give edge lighting to the motherboard. So essentially it's just an RGB strip. See, it lines up with the standoffs, right? And then what it does is it basically then provides lighting that sticks out the edge of your motherboard, so you have some cool lighting around the edge. I feel like this area might be dark in this build, so I wanted to utilize this. And then I can just run that up through the grommet and then plug this into the motherboard. Everything else, lighting wise, which is honestly just the strip, and I guess the Nexus Q60 is gonna be controlled by the Nexus software. So I don't need like just this one header. So I think I'm going to go ahead and throw the motherboard in and this guy, and then that'll be neat. I think to have a little bit more edge lighting on there. So here's that lightsaber, I guess they're calling it, in there. And then you can see it just overhangs, once you line up all the screws, it just overhangs the motherboard. So it gives what looks like edge lighting on the board. Some of the boards already have this lighting built in, this one doesn't. But as you can see, it gives that edge lighting, which will be nice. All right, so I'm not gonna be able to use that lightsaber. I've tried to modify it to make it work. The problem is this part right here hangs down so far because it's got the built-in, obviously the IO shield. It's impacting on the light bar. And I even tried, I thought maybe the foam was the issue, so I pulled off some of the foam. Can't use it because it interferes. It won't allow the motherboard to seat all the way down. That's why the button was all crooked. As soon as I take it out, everything fits perfectly. I thought the grommet was in the way, so I moved it up and all that, but didn't matter. So, all right, the build is getting simpler as we go, I guess. Man, I wish this was a 360 because it would just be more pleasing.
Sometimes it's not about length, it's about girth.
There's a lot of girth in this guy. It's really for no reason other than the fact that the colors are not gonna match, that I'm gonna be a little triggered by that, but whatever. This is also kind of a neat time to talk about WinRing0. WinRing0 was the house of cards and the really old kernel level driver that like RGB and fan control software was built on for generations. And then obviously with all of the secure boot and kernel level malware infections and such that the industry's become much more aware of, as Windows basically said, you can't just arbitrarily use WinRing0 driver anymore to access kernel level, which is what you need to get access to all the sensors and stuff happening in your system. Windows Defender just automatically started quarantining that driver when it wasn't being used or signed by devices that had been, like security vetted, if you will. So that's why kind of across the world overnight, a while ago, about a year ago, people started noticing things like fan control and other RGB software and ARGB software popping up in Defender as a virus. Like the amount of people that were writing me saying, Jay, why are you promoting a virus with fan control? And it's like, it's not what the problem was. So Nexus was actually, or Hyte was actually one of the first companies to identify the problem. So they've kind of moved over their entire suite when they redesigned the software to Pon.io, which is a whole different driver stack, if you will. So what happens then is it's actually now identified as a valid piece of software accessing kernel level because it's sent over to Microsoft for validation, et cetera, et cetera. So Windows Defender can now recognize what this is and no longer start flagging it as a virus. It really caused a lot of confusion for people. It didn't cause a whole lot necessarily in, say, heartache, but it definitely caused an issue for people with peace of mind. Because you could kind of like add an exception, if you would, for a lot of this software, but it would constantly warn you that, hey, this is a problem, or next update, it would go back into like, hey, this is an issue. So it's kind of nice that Nexus was one of the, or I should say Hyte, make sure it goes the right way. Hyte was one of the first companies to sort of recognize what was happening and then really move quickly to make sure that that didn't continue to be a problem in the future. So some people are still running pieces of software that are not being rewritten with explicit drivers that are sent off for validation from Microsoft. And so I still get emails from people periodically saying, hey, fan control is showing up as a virus, but here's the thing, even fan control has been updated and has now modernized itself so that it's not throwing itself as an issue or a virus. So it's one of those things where it's kind of like, I've always said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, including like Windows updates and BIOSes and all that sort of stuff. But now that has so not been the case. Like, I feel like you're constantly having to update stuff or you're gonna find yourself with an issue in the future. So one of the reasons why I feel pretty confident in using, this is the first time I'm actually using the Q60 in a build, because I think the Nexus software personally is some of the best RGB software and fan control / system control stuff that's out there. It's cool though, I like this. I like the screen. A lot of people were like, that's so gimmicky, but I like gimmicks. Or even just little animations, like she loves like little, like I want to say flash animations, but she loves like little anime animations, like the fish bubbly one and stuff that they've shown at the shows. Like remember she was at the tech fair and she saw the booth that had all this stuff on display, and she loved the little like bubbly bubbles and things happening. I mean, what kid wouldn't? I mean, it's not really designed and intended for kids, but obviously this is slightly juvenile, and there's nothing wrong with that. Such an easy installation. It was just slide the old bracket off, slide 2 brackets on, thread on the 4 posts onto the AMD bracket, and then screw down the springs. So easy. Cool, and then because everything's wired through the tubing here, the only cable is literally the one cable coming off of the AIO, and then it has a USB header, has a fan header, and a USB header. So the fan header will plug into the CPU header. That way it's not yelling at us that, hey, you don't have a CPU fan installed. I think I might have to use the hub that they gave me. We'll see. It's been a minute since I've hooked up any of the Nexus stuff. Like we talked about it when it first came out, but like I said, it's been a hot minute. And as you can see, it will clear, obviously, our GPU just fine. It stays off that plane. I don't know if it picks up on camera, but this XFX card is a slightly warmer white than the case. But once it's all lit up and stuff inside, hopefully it won't be too bad. That's my only problem with white components, is that they never match. And that's why I think it's more impressive that, oh, is that gonna hits the cooler? I might have to move these fans to the side and this to the front, because the height of this in their own case doesn't allow the GPU to seat all the way down, because it's hitting that before it's even, yeah. Okay, so they have measured that like to the millimeter, because, and it's like, look at the, I'm glad I don't have to reroute all that stuff. I guess it's a little bit more satisfying now. I mean, I would have rather had it all be full back there. I could technically, no, there's not enough room for another 120 fan down there, but it'll be fine. It's just like, holy cow. So they don't give you standard PCI Express, even though the power supply has the ports. The cable sets they sell for it, you need to now pick between PCI Express 5 or not. So that's why that's called a 5.0 starter kit, because it is intended to only be used with graphics cards apparently that have a PCI Express 5.0. So now I'm just gonna switch the power supply. I was trying to find another graphics card that I could use for this, but it'd either be like a 4090, which is, it's overkill, I'm not gonna do it. Or change out the power supply that has black cables. I have no, oh, I need to put the other cables back. I have no other white cables other. Phil, what do you think? 1,000 watts is already overkill. I have one more power supply that's white and has white cables, and it's a Lee & Lee 1200 Edge.
You've had that Edge for a while and you haven't found the build to put it in, so I mean...
Okay, blame Phil. Write your hate mail to phil@jays2cents.com.
I'm gonna forward you any that I actually get.
We're just even more future capable, right? Does this should have PCI Express, right? The standard PCI. I would hope. There's a lot of cables there.
This is a giant, like...
It's funny how small the power supply section is on this, given how large the old 850 is. 850 comes out to like here. So, okay, let's get the powers in there and then we can be done with it. All right, pretty sure it's done. It just bothers me though that all the modern power supplies are too short, so you get this gap right here, you know? Anyway, whatever. I can't do anything about that. But backside doesn't look too terrible. It's definitely a fun collection of parts. It just would have been neat if we could have incorporated the Terra Milk into the cooler. I just hate how warm the white is on this GPU, but once it's all lit up inside, that should be no longer an issue. But let me put the side panels back on, and then I need to see if this will post, or if I have to do a BIOS update via flashback to get the CPU to work in an older 670 motherboard. All right, let's see if we need a BIOS update. Oh, we got a red, I think it's just hung on CPU, so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to do a BIOS flashback on this, because pretty sure the board is too old for this 9000 series CPU. All right, well that was a pretty painless BIOS flashback. Invalid signature detected. Check secure boot policy and setup. I mean, that's kind of somewhat normal for the first boot on this right now. After a BIOS flash, we just have to do a restart. But actually, I'm not gonna lie, that QFlash Plus process from Gigabyte was pretty painless. I've had so many of these break in their main like phase, their attempt, or just getting it to except the drive. Like a lot of them, especially the Asus stuff, is really sensitive to the type of drive and format that you use, or even the size of the drive. We've got our CPUs chilling at 29 degrees right now. So now to install Windows, install updates, install drivers, install the Nexus software. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up. If you guys are curious about what I'm doing next, we do have a pretty good guide that we put out a while back that's still pretty relevant today on what to do after you build your system. So I'll try to put a link to that down below. I think it's got over like 15 million views now or something like that. It's kind of crazy. But I think she's really gonna like this. I'll make sure I post something on Twitter or maybe in the community post here on YouTube about her reaction to it when she sees it. Don't know when she's gonna get it, because like I said, I have to go through all of the updates and stuff right now. And then I get to go through all of the fun setup of helping establish all of her accounts, because everything is like parental lockdown and I've got to remember all the passwords and logins to lots of stuff. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Huge thank you to iBuyPower. Do it again. So thanks for watching, guys. Huge thank you to Hyte for sending over the cases for me to mix and match, and then the fans and all that sort of stuff. I mean, they're an easy brand for us to get behind. They're so open and honest when it comes to, you know, the reason why they do business, the way they do business, you know, the transparency regarding, you know, all the WinRing0 stuff, especially the candid conversation we had with Rob, you know, talking about design choices and their demographic and the fact that they are a boutique, you know, expensive brand and what that means to them and how that does affect, you know, their buyer base and all that. Just a vulnerability a lot of brands are unwilling to have. Hyte is willing to have, because they're definitely a very real company as far as I'm concerned, with the people that run it, the people that work there, they're all enthusiasts, so it definitely shows. But of course, we can't end this video without having one of those epic film montages, so I'll see you guys later. Enjoy the montage.